Hello and welcome to our 15th session and our fourth one in this robot modeling project. So in this session, we are going to fine tune and add more details to every part of our Jimmy robot model. So to begin with, I will come to Blender and I am going to first open 13_14 robot design stage 3.blend. Now go to file, choose save as, and I am going to give this the name as 3_15 robot design underscore stage 4 and click save. You can see here that in our file you have the Jimmy robot collection and you have another collection here which has the camera and light. Right now I will disable this collection. I will come into Jimmy robot collection and I will select any of the object here, right click and shade auto smooth. I am going to press A and select all the object, right click, and I am going to apply this shade auto smooth. So I have applied this shade auto smooth to all the objects. I will start to fine tune the objects one by one, and I am going to first start with shoulder. I will come over here in the add modifier and I am going to search and I am going to add a subdivision modifier and I will add it to about 2 levels. And for this next part, arm, I don't need any subdivision modifier. Next, elbow. Only thing is I have renamed it as wrong name. I will rename it and give it the right name as ELBOW. Now for this elbow, again I am going to come into my modifier and I am going to add subdivision surface and I am going to add it 2 levels. And immediately you can see how this entire cylinder gets distorted. So for this now I will press tab, and to make this appear better, I will come into my edge selection mode and alt click and select the top edge, and now I will just press ES and I will slightly add one face like this, and then I will press ES one more time and I will add a face something like this, ES the third time and I will add a face like this, ES the fourth time and I am going to add a face like this. Now I will come down and I will alt click and select the loop at the bottom, and here also I will press ES and add one loop, ES and add the second loop, with shift I will add it, and then ES and add the third loop like this, and ES and add the fourth loop, and if I press tab, okay, now this shape appears to be something better, but still these edges are not clear. So for that I will press tab and I will alt click this edge and with shift select the bottom edge, and then I will press Ctrl B and I am going to add a slight bevel like this, and if I press tab, now you can see that these edges appear sharper. Now here we are going to create some interesting pattern. For that I will press tab and come into the edit mode, and I will now come into the face selection mode by pressing 3 and alt click and select this face. With shift alt I will select the inner face like this. I select these two faces, then I press E and I will slightly extrude it and move it to the bottom like this. I am going to approximately move it by around -0.01, and then I have to make this, if I press tab and show it to you, the edges are very smooth. I want it to be sharp. So to add sharpness, I will press tab and come into the edit mode and I will press Ctrl R, and first I am going to add a loop here and I will slightly move it to the top like this to make this edge sharper. Then Ctrl R and add a loop here and I will move it like this to make this edge sharper. Ctrl R and move this to make this edge sharper. Similarly, Ctrl R and may add a loop here and move it to make this edge sharper. So making all this edge sharper, I will press tab, and now you can see that we have some kind of an interesting structure. You are seeing some kind of zigzag pattern appearing here. So for this I will press tab and come into the face selection mode. I select this face and I am going to press ES and I will slightly scale it down like this, and if I press the tab, now you can see that distortion is gone. I will also turn on the other side now. I will move it on the other side. I will press tab, and even here I will alt click this loop, shift alt and select this loop, and I will press E and I will slightly move it in. Again I will move it by minus 0.01, and then I am again going to add some kind of this loops to make the edge sharper. So I will press Ctrl R, and I will just turn it a little more, press Ctrl R, and I am going to add one loop here, and I will make this edge sharper. Then Ctrl R, and I will add one edge here, and I will make this edge sharper. Then I will press Ctrl R, and I will move and make this edge sharper. I will press Ctrl R, and I will make this edge sharper. Then I will come into face selection mode, and I will select this face, and I will press ES, and I will add a small inset so that here this pattern appears right. Now the next thing is we will come into this wrist, and for this wrist also I will come into my add modifier, and I am going to add the subdivision surface modifier. I will increase the level here to 2, and even in this case, so I will press tab, I will press Ctrl R, and I will slightly move it over here to make this edge sharper. Then I will press Ctrl R, and I will add 2 loops here like this. Then I am going to just move it, or I will right click its movement a little, and then I am going to scale this along the x-axis a little like this to reduce this gap. I will come into this face selection mode, alt click here and select this face, and then press E and right click to extrude and place it at the same point. Then alt S and just move it like this, and I am going to move it by around minus 0.004, and then I will press tab, and only thing is even here I want this edges to be sharp. So I will press tab, I will press Ctrl R, and I will add one loop over here, Ctrl R, and one loop I will place it over here. I am going to select the hand, and in the hand also I will come into the add modifier, and I will add this subdivision surface modifier, and in viewport I will set it to 2, and then coming over here I will again press tab, come into edit mode, press Ctrl R, click once, right click, and then I will just press G twice, and I will slide it and bring it to the corner like this. Press Ctrl R again, and here again I will add 2 loops, click once and then right click, then press scale, and along the x-axis I will scale it a little closer like this. Then I will select the face selection mode, I will alt click here, press E, drag it and right click, and then press alt S and just pull it inside like this. I will add a small extrude like this by around minus 0.02, and then again here I will press Ctrl R, and I will add one sharp edge over here, Ctrl R, and I will add a sharp edge over here, and if required I will press one Ctrl R inside also, and I am going to add one sharp edge over here. So now you can see that we have one more cut like this. I will press tab, and even at this end here I will press Ctrl R, and I will add a loop, and I will slightly pull it up like this to make this edge sharper here. And similarly I will select this wrist also, press tab, press Ctrl R, and I will add one loop and pull it out like this and press tab, so that I have a sharp end over here. And finally now even for the fingers, I select these fingers here, and then even for this I will come into add modifier, and I am going to add a subdivision surface, and I will increase its level to 2. Okay, so this is fine, this looks fine. So coming into the body, I am going to add the subdivision surface to it. I will come into add modifier, search, and I am going to add subdivision surface, and I am going to add level 2 here. And then again here at the edges this appears very soft here, so I want a sharp edge. So I will press tab here, press Ctrl R and I will add a loop here and I will just pull it up like this, so that when I press tab you can see that I have a sharp edge here. And then I will press 3 and come into the side view, and as you can see here, some portion of this body is going into our hips. See here, I want this to sit exactly over the hip. So for that I will come into wireframe mode, and then I will press tab, and then now I will just come into vertex selection mode, and I am going to press C and I am going to increase my selection area like this. So I will make a round like this, I will make a selection like this of this entire area like this. So I will make a selection like this, I will right click and cancel it, so that I have selected this entire bottom portion like this. Now I am going to press 3, come into the side view, and then I am going to enable this proportional editing, and then press G, Z, and I will slightly move it up like this. See, I will move it up and place it so that it sits exactly, if required I will slightly, see, it sits on my, see this, see it is sitting now on this hips like this. So here I will select this area, press G, move it and place it exactly over this hip like this, shift middle mouse and I will select this area, press G, Z and slightly move it over like this. Now I will come into the solid state, press tab and there is a slight gap now. I will press 3 and come into the side view, and I will just select everything on the top like this, everything. I will just move in and I will just come down here, press GZ and slightly move it down so that it is sitting exactly on this body. Now here next is the bottom area here. I want this to be a little sharper. Okay, so for that I will select the body again, press tab, and then what I will do is I will press Ctrl R and I am going to add a loop here, and I will slightly move it like this to make this edge sharper. Then I will press Ctrl R and I will just add one loop here and I will move it down to move this edge sharper, so that these edges at the bottom appears a little more sharper now. And here also at the bottom there is some kind of distortion here. So to avoid it, I will come into my modifier and I will switch off this subdivision surface. I will press Ctrl R, and the bottom here I am going to add one loop cut here and I will enable subdivision surface, and similarly I will press Ctrl R and add one to the top like this, and I will make it sharp so that when I press tab, and now if you see this, okay, this appears to be fine. On the top we want these edges to be sharp, so I will press tab here. I will come into the edge selection mode, and again here I will come and switch off this subdivision surface. I will alt click and select this loop. Then I am going to also select shift alt and select this, and similarly shift alt and select this. So after selecting this, I will press Ctrl B and I will slightly bevel it a little like this, and I will add a bevel of around 0.001, and then similarly now I will alt click on the inner edge here. I will zoom in and I am going to select, with shift selected, select only this edge, and then similarly come here and I am going to just zoom out, and I am going to now select, I will move in and I will select the inner edge here. So I will slightly move it here, this edge, with shift I will select this edge, and for this also after I select the inner edge, I will add Ctrl B a loop of around again 0.001, and now if I press tab and then enable this subdivision surface, now you can see that this has a sharp edge like this. We are going to just come into this body, press 1 and come into the front view. I will press tab, and then I will press Ctrl R and I am going to add one small loop over here like this. Then I will come into the face selection mode and I will alt click this entire face structure here. I will come over here and switch off this subdivision surface to see it clear. So, I have selected this entire thing. I will press E and then I will cancel it and then press Alt S and I will slightly scale it in a little like this. So, I will move it in like this. I will move it by around 0.02 units and then I will enable this subdivision surface, and if I press tab, now you can see that we have a structure like this. Only thing is I want these edges to be soft. So, I will press tab here, press Ctrl R and I am going to add one loop here and I will make this edge sharper. Ctrl R, add another loop here and I will make this edge sharper. So, now we got a structure something like this. Now, the only issue is I have some kind of sharpness over here and you can see some kind of projection you are seeing. So, to correct this, I will press tab here and I will select some of the edges. I will select this edge, press X and I will choose dissolve edges. I will select this edge and dissolve the edge. I will select this with shift plus this and this, press alt and dissolve the edges, and similarly I will select this edge and dissolve the edge. I will select this edge and dissolve the edge, so that I have one cross edge here. I will select this edge and press X and I will dissolve the edge. Okay. Now, similarly I will move to the back and even here you can see some kind of projection coming here. So, I will press tab and I will select this edge and press X and dissolve the edges. I will select this edge and I will dissolve the edges, and I will select this edge and dissolve the edges. So, I will press tab and now we have this structure almost ready. Next we are going to move into this hip section. Now, coming over here in the add modifier, I am going to add the subdivision modifier for this, and I will also set the viewport level to 2 here, and you can see a slight amount of projection at the centers. To avoid it, I will press tab, I will alt click and select this outer ring and I will press S and I will enable proportional editing. I will alt click and select this ring and I will press S and I will slightly move it in like this by increasing the area here, and if I press tab and see it, okay, so now still I have some amount here. So, I will press tab, press S and slightly I will move it in, press tab and see that that projection is removed. So, okay, this now appears to be smooth. Now, if I press 1 and come into the front view, and if I enable the reference image and if I come into the wireframe mode, you can see a small projection running over here. So, the next thing is we have to create this projection. So, for this I will press tab and then with the face selection I am going to just draw a box and I am going to select all the faces here like this. Okay. So, I have selected all the faces here like this, press 1 and come into the front view, and then I will press I and I am going to create a slight, see this inset like this. I will create a slight inset like this, but when I am creating the inset, you can see the inset is creating even at the center. So, if we want to avoid it, I will come to edit and undo it. I will press tab and I will come over here and I will apply the mirror modifier, and once I apply it, now I will press tab and you can see that this entire area is now selected, see, and now I will press 1. Now, I have this selection. Now, I am going to press I will now come over here and I will temporarily switch off this subdivision surface and I am going to off it. I will then press I and I am going to create a small inset like this, and it will be around, say for example 0.015. I create an inset, and then here you can see you have one option here, select outer. So, when I click on select outer, now only the outer part of this is selected. I will press E and create an extrude, then I will press Alt S and I will just disable this proportional editing, press Alt S again and I will just move it a little inside like this. I will move it by around minus 0.008 and I create a small inset like this, and then if I now enable this subdivision surface and see it, see now you can see we have created this kind of one structure. Now next here, coming on to the side portion over here, I will just select this, press the tab, coming into this edge mode. Now press Ctrl R and I am going to add one more ring here like this. I will alt click and select this ring, press S and I will scale it down like this a little. Then I will alt click and select this and press, and I will slightly scale it like this. Then press Ctrl R and add one more ring like this. Then I will come into face selection mode, alt click and select these faces. I will press E and Alt S and I will slightly scale it inside like this. I will create a small depth of around minus 0.01, and then if I press tab, now we can see some kind of triangulation here, some kind of straps appearing here. So I will press tab here, Ctrl R, I will come into edge mode, I will select this ring, press 3 and then I will press scale and I will scale it down a little more like this. Then I will press Ctrl R and I am going to add another ring here. I am going to zoom in and in the vertex selection mode, I will select the center vertex here and press G and place it at the center. Okay, then I will press Ctrl numpad plus and I will select this set. I will press 1 and come into the front view, and here I will just zoom in with shift middle mouse. I will just zoom here and I will press GX and I will slightly move it back like this. Then I will select only this vertex and press GX and I will move it back like this. And then I am going to then select this entire selection here. And now if I press tab and if I have a look at it here, now you are not seeing any of these articrafts and this appears to be fine. Now apart from this, I also want to add some amount of sharpness on the edge over here. So I will press tab, press Ctrl R, I will add a loop and I will just move it over here to make this edge sharper. And also I will press here and come over here and press Ctrl R and I am going to add one more small loop here. Then come into face selection mode, I will alt click here, press E, right click and then press Alt S and I will slightly move it in like this by the same value of minus 0.01, and then I will again press Ctrl R and I will add a loop here to make this sharper. Ctrl R and I am going to add a loop here to make this sharper. And now if I press tab, so now on the right hand side we have a smooth structure. I want to design the same thing on this side also. So now we have already applied the mirror, so we have to manually do it, but there is a tool just like we used it in our last sessions, you already know it. So if I press tab and if I press A to select everything, and if I come into mesh and if I use the option symmetrize, so when I click on symmetrize, now by default what happens is whatever is on the left has come on the right. I want the right side to be replicated on the left. So for that I will come here and in the direction I am going to choose plus x to minus x, and now you can see that whatever we added this extrudes on the right hand side is applied on the left hand side. And now if I press the tab, okay, so now our hips is almost ready, and still you can see some amount of gap here. See, I will press 3 and come into side view, and I will disable this reference image, and I will draw a box and select all the objects on the top, and I will press GZ and I will slightly move it down and place it over here so that it rests exactly over here. Now, the next thing we are going to work on is this thighs. So, I will select the thigh and again come into the add modifier, and I am going to add this subdivision surface. So, when I add the subdivision surface, you can see some artifact strange shapes getting formed over here, and this is because mainly if you see inside, I have some faces inside here. So, to identify this, what I will do is I will press tab and temporarily I will switch off this subdivision surface, come into object mode, select this object and press H to hide it, and then I will select this, press tab, I will come into face selection mode and I will press alt and select all the faces inside. With shift alt I will select these faces, and then I am now going to press H and I am going to hide it, and once I hide it, you can now see there are some faces here inside. So, I am going to select all these faces inside this. I will press X and I am going to delete this face. Now, I will press Alt H to unhide everything, and if I press tab and if I enable subdivision surface now, you can now see that still we have some kind of artifacts happening here. So, I will press alt here, and if you see here, this is happening because I need to add some loop cuts here. So, I will press control here, I will come over here, I will just pull it and I will add one loop cut over here, and similarly I will press Ctrl R and I will add one more loop cut inside till here. So, I have added two loop cuts, and still on the edge you have some issues. Okay, so now I will alt click here and I have to add a very slight bevel here. So, I will press Ctrl B, and when I add this bevel, if I increase it, you get a more, means I have to precisely add it. So, what I will do is I will come over here and I will add a bevel of 0.0001, and if I press tab here, if I press the tab here also I am seeing some artifacts. So, I will press Ctrl Alt and I will click here and I will move it like this till here, and I am going to press tab, and now you can see this surface is almost perfect. Now, similarly I will press Ctrl R here and I will drag and pull one more face to the other end like this. See, I will move it till here, if required GG and move this, and I will adjust it till here. So, now and similarly Ctrl R and I will add one loop here and I will just drag it like this and I will make this correct here, then Ctrl R and R another one and just pull it in like this till here. Then I will press Ctrl B and I will add a slight bevel to this like this, and now you can see that it's almost perfect. There are certain see these vertices you can see here. I will select this and this, and I will press G and slightly move it and move it to the top, and I will adjust it. Ctrl R and I am going to add a loop cut here and I will drag it like this. Now, again I will press Ctrl R and I will add two loops here and I will slightly move it to the left somewhere like this. I will place it here, and then I have to now make a selection of this loop. I will select this in the vertex selection mode, and then I will press Ctrl and I will click till here, then I will press Ctrl and click till here. So, I am selecting this entire loop till here and almost till here I will select it. So, I have selected this center loop, and I will come into this proportional editing, and then I will press S and I will slightly reduce this like this, and I am going to just make this a little, scale it up a little like this, slightly make it bulge, so that you get a bulge shape. Press tab, and here if required I will switch off this subdivision surface, and using this face selection I will select some of the faces, 3 faces here, 3 faces here, and 3 faces here, and then I am just going to press I, and I am going to add a slight extrusion like this, and again I will come here and choose select outer. Now I will enable subdivision surface, and I will press E, and I am going to slightly add a small bulge like this. See, a very small bulge. Okay, so of around minus 0.001, and if I add this bulge and if I press tab, you can see a small kind of embossment appearing here, and finally I will press Alt H and I will unhide knee. So now even for this I will come into add modifier, and I am going to add subdivision surface, and I will increase the viewport to 2, and even in this case in the thighs I will increase the viewport to 2, and I will now select the knee, and then I have added the subdivision surface, and if required I will press tab, and in this case if required I can come into face selection. I will select this face, press ES, and I will slightly scale it down like this, ES, and slightly scale it down like this, and then I will, with proportional editing on, I will press GX, and I will slightly make it bulgy like this, and similarly on the other side also I will select this face, ES, and again I will press ES, and then even in this case I will press GX, and I will slightly make it bulgy. I will press A, and I will switch off proportional editing, and SX, and I will slightly scale it out like. Now after this I will next come into this cough section, and here also I will come here, and in add modifier I will add subdivision surface, increase this level viewport to 2, and even in this case I want this edges to be sharp. So I will press tab, then press Ctrl R, and I will add one loop to the top like this. I will press Ctrl R, and I will come into the side, and I will make this edge sharper. Similarly press Ctrl R and add one loop here, and I will make this edge sharper. Ctrl R and one loop here, and I will make the down edge sharper. So now if I press tab, you can now see that all the edges are now sharp. And now to edit this top portion, I will select this thigh and press H and hide it. I will select this knee, press H and hide it, and even for this I will press tab, and I will press Ctrl R, and I will add a loop and pull it down like this, Ctrl R, and I will add a loop like this, so that we have a sharp edge like this. Then I will press Alt H and unhide everything. If we want to add some more detail here, I will press tab, and I will come into face selection mode, and I am going to select 1, 2, 3 faces here. I will turn this side also, and I will select these 3 faces, and even here I will deselect this and select these 3 faces, and then I will press I, and I will add a slight inset like this, and this time I will switch off this select outer, and then I am now going to press E, and I will create a slight extrude like this. So I will make it extrude a little like this, and then if required I will press Ctrl R, and I will add a loop cut to the top like this, Ctrl R, and add a loop cut. And now here if required I will press tab here once again, and I will, with the face selection mode, I will select these faces. I will extrude one more level a little like this, and even here I will select these 3, and I will press I, and I will slightly extrude it inside like this, so that we have a kind of greater depth over here. and then I will select this ankle, and even for this I will come over add modifier and I am going to add subdivision surface, and even in this case I will press tab and I will select this face. I will type ES, ES and ES and make it small like this, and similarly even this side I will select this and type ES, then ES and one more ES like this. Okay, so now we have this appears to be fine, and after this I will now select the foot and I am going to come into add modifier, and again I am going to use the subdivision surface and increase 2. Here also I will press tab and I will press Ctrl R and I will add one loop here and I will make this edge sharper like this. Press Ctrl R and add one more loop here and pull it out like this, so that these edges are made sharper. Press Ctrl R and I will add one sharp edge here, Ctrl R and one sharp edge to the top, and similarly here also Ctrl R and one sharp edge to the bottom, and Ctrl R and one sharp edge to the top like this. I am going to come over to this lower head, that is head low part, and if I press 1 and come into the front view, and if I enable this reference image and come into the wireframe mode, and you can see there are 3 lines coming over here. So we have to create this, and for this I will switch off reference image, and here in this I will select this and I will come into press tab and come into the edit mode, and I will disable this toggle X-ray and then press RZ and I will slightly rotate it along the Z axis, so that I have these 3 points to the center. Then I will come into face selection mode, select 1, 2, 3 faces here, 1, 2, 3 faces here, and 1, 2, 3 faces here, and then I will press I and I will create a slight inset, and then I will press E and I will slightly move it in. Now I will come into solid state, I will press tab and then come into add modifier, and in search I am going to now add the subdivision surface modifier to this also, and I will increase its viewport level to 2, and you can see now these kind of mark. And now if I zoom out and if I show it to you, so now all the parts are now ready. So right now I will come here, file, and I am going to save this file, and in our next session we are going to design the details in this head section.